The Countermarch. Transteps of Power. A Transcendent Theory on Regression.
Quote, "It is a kind of countermarch, by which we get into the rear of time, and mark the movements and meaning of things as we make our return. There are certain circumstances, which, at the time of their happening, are a kind of riddle, and as every riddle is to be followed by its answer, so those kind of circumstances will be followed by their events, and those events are always the true solution." Unquote. Thomas Paine, The American Crisis, 1777.
Starting with the three faces of power, which I did not formulate myself. The first power, person A gets person B to act accordingly to both entities' interests. We can think of these as laws, statutes, rules, and guidelines. The second power, person A gets person B to act in a manner that is only beneficial to person A's interests. We can think of this type of power as favor, or servitude, or being whipped. The third power, person A gets person B to act in a manner that is beneficial to person A, yet is detrimental to person B, despite common belief. Things like priestcraft, psyops, and enslavement fall into this category. Moving on to the Transteps in power, a reversal of the faces of power. These I formulated myself shortly after learning about the faces of power at my first day in American Government and Institutions, a course at my Salt Lake Community College. I had somewhat of a revelation. The first Transtep is abuse of press legitimacy. You can think of this as the breaking news banner when it's really not breaking news. The second Transtep is manipulation of information distribution. Here's an example of some CNN math during the 2016 election. What I find peculiar about this, the way it stacks up, pledged to Hillary Clinton were 1776 delegates. And the total to Bernie Sanders, though nobody should have been calculating the superdelegates in, 1547 is said to be the year that the first book on metaphysics was written by a Jewish scribe. Seems a little eerie to me. The third Transtep, coercion, or psychological subversion. And once that happens, you fall into the countermarch, where it is an endless cycle of regression. And you do not know what legitimacy even is, because your psyche is so subverted. Here's an example. Heteronomy, being the antithesis of autonomy. The Human Capital Report 2016 found that only 65% of the world's talent was being optimized through education, skills development, and deployment during people's lifetime. It is probably lower now. What I found odd about these numbers, 65% of the Democratic electorate earn under $20,000 per year. 32% of the entire American electorate claimed Democrat. Inversely so, 23% of the entire American electorate claimed Republican, and 65% of them claimed over $200,000 per year. While independents, being the majority, really have no representation. They are not autonomous, but heteronymous. Feels like the entire 2016 election was coercion. So let's review the Transteps in power in contrast to the faces of power. Person A gets person B to act accordingly to both entities' interests, but if there is an abuse of press legitimacy, how could you tell whose interests are whose? With the second face, A gets B to act in a manner only beneficial to A's interests. But with manipulation of information, it gets even more convoluted. The third face, A gets B to act in a manner beneficial to A, yet detrimental to B, despite belief. And if you get into the psychological subversion, it really just starts to get wicked. And you fall into an endless cycle of regression, or authoritarian to totalitarian. Really, the only way to escape this madness is down and out, through reason. In praise of incrementalism, not gradualism. When I say incrementalism, I mean piecing things together, as in a development, like Henry Ford's conveyor belt line. It is well enough that the people of the nation do not understand our banking and monetary system, for if they did, I believe there would be a revolution before tomorrow morning. Henry Ford. Tend to like this quote a little better. I'm not interested in power for power's sake, but I'm interested in power that is moral, that is right, and that is good.